Hello everyone, and welcome to part 2 of this module, the How section. How do you go about starting to build and organize a classroom library? We've accustomed you to some of the benefits of doing this, so now we're going to give you the instructions for how to start. So first, the things you need to know before you start collecting. Students need to be exposed to a range of language, topic, genres, and perspectives. We don't want to pigeonhole students into one genre or one kind of book or text. We want them to be exposed to many different kinds so that they become used to reading different kinds of texts and finding information they need in different kinds of texts. So make sure that you are providing a variety of genres and types of books in your library. Include a wide range of reading levels. As a teacher, you know that you are not going to have one reading level in your class. You are going to have a wide range. So you need to include a wide range of books that span that range of reading levels. Okay. Include fiction, nonfiction, reference materials, periodicals, picture books, short stories, handbooks, biographies, essays, and so on. Don't just include chapter books and dictionaries. You need to make sure that you've got things like magazines in any kind of, covering any kind of topic that you can get your hands on, whether it's a quilting magazine or a magazine on, Midwest farming. It's just something to expose your students to that kind of text. Handbooks are another good suggestion. Have you ever opened up your user manual for your dishwasher and thought, I have no idea what I'm reading? Well, if you've ever experienced that, it's because you probably haven't been exposed to something like that before. And of course, curate your own collection to the content that you teach. As a math teacher, I would always make sure to include books that either included math topics or included something in them that would tie in mathematics into the story. Even books like the Rick Riordan books about Percy Jackson, when they're talking about the Grand Canyon, and I read that book to my students aloud. When they talked about the Grand Canyon, we talked about the span, the distance that the canyon it is across. So, and we talked about how many feet that would be, how many meters, So I try to make sure that there's at least a few books in my collection that are tailored to the content that I teach. Now that you've been exposed to those important points, let's go about and start collecting. The first thing to remember is that, as with most things in the teaching world, it is okay to beg, borrow, and steal. But not really. Don't go out and steal books. What I mean by that is steal ideas. If you see a teacher that is doing something that is working well for them, ask them why is it working? Ask them their method. It's the same thing here. If you see a teacher with a large classroom library that seems to function very well, ask them what they're doing. Steal their methods. And of course, to actually get the books, beg and borrow. Beg family members, beg charities, beg corporations for donations so that you can start your classroom library. Borrow things. If you can borrow books or magazines from friends, families, or companies to even just for a special presentation in your class so that you can, again, expose your students to a different kind of text, that would be very beneficial. And then when that unit is over, return the materials. Of course, ways to get cheap books. Just because a book is old and used does not make it any less enjoyable and any less educational. So, first, Hit up garage sales, thrift shops, use bookstores. There are several universities that I know of and schools that have annual book festivals where they pull out books from their own libraries and sell them at a very steep discount. If your classroom participates in scholastic book clubs, make sure that you sign up with a teacher account so that you can gain points and use those points to purchase materials for your classroom. You'll be surprised how quickly those points add up. And then, of course, make use of what you have at home. Just like how I was saying earlier, make sure to include things like periodicals, journals, magazines. If you've got a collection of National Geographic magazines at home, bring them in. Let students flip through the pages. There is so much rich information in those magazines. And even some how-to magazines can introduce students to procedural writing and writing for purpose. So, your library does not need to be full of new hardbound books. It needs to be full of books, any kind. Next, once you've got a collection started, you need to organize them. So there's several different methods that I'm going to talk about real quick. Alphabetical. We know that in our libraries, fiction books are arranged by the author's last name in alphabetical order. So you would think that maybe you should do that for your classroom library. I would not. It is very difficult for students to reshelve books and to find books that they need because they are probably not going to know the author's name. If you teach a very young classroom like primary, kindergarten, pre-K, I would suggest arranging your books by topic. This makes it very easy for young students who maybe don't know how to read yet to locate books based on their topic. So if Billy comes up to you and says, I read a book last week. I don't remember what it's called, but I know it was about a bug. Then you can show Billy over to your classroom library and say, this is where we have our books about bugs. So it must be in here somewhere. And then from then on, Billy will be able to locate books on his own. If you're in an older classroom, probably grades 1 through 4, maybe even higher, you can arrange your books by genre. This is the way that I usually arrange my books. So I arrange them based on fiction and nonfiction, and then I guess you could say micro-arrange them based on their genres like mystery and drama. And if you're teaching in a high school classroom, you may even have a romance section where students are introduced to those different kinds of books. Then themes. This is something that you may do temporarily in your classroom if you are introducing themes in your English language art studies. And then, of course, another way is by their reading level. So if your district tests students, like some of my schools have, based on their accelerated reading level, or their DIBELS reading level, or anything like that, you can level your books and then arrange them, group them based on their levels. Now, having said that, let me give you a brief primer on how to level your books. So, what we're going to do is go to our web browser and type in www.aarbookfind.com. You'll get a welcome page. Please tell us who you are. Student, parent, teacher, librarian. This is just for statistical use. It's not going to ask you for your name or anything. So I'm going to put that I'm a teacher and submit. Okay. So on this page, you'll see your search bar, okay? And if you need help on in-depth help on how to use this website, you can click here to watch this brief overview, okay? Or you can just continue watching this video. But up in our search bar, we can type anything, type any book based on its, as it says here, author, topics, titles of those books. So I'm going to type in Diary of a Wimpy Kid. You're going to get quite a few results. Now, something that I've discovered based on use is that you've got to make sure that you are selecting the book in the correct language that you have in your library. So many times books are printed in several different languages. In this case, it looks like they only have the English versions of Diary of a Wimpy Kid in here. So since I want book 1, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, I can click on the title here, and it will give me a nice overview of this book, even places where I can buy it. So this is what we're interested in, though. The I call this ATOS book level. ATOS book level is 5.2, meaning 5th grade, 2nd month. The interest level, most likely the middle grades, 4th through 8th grade. If your school uses Accelerated Reader, it's worth 3 points. You can see that readers have rated this book 4.5 stars, and it's got 19,784 words. And of course, it is fiction. So this gives you a nice, like I said, overview of the book. There's several other websites that you can use to level your books. This is just the one that I've always used. So please watch the next video below this one on this How page of the module, where Betsy Weigel talks about how she's organized her classroom, and she overlaps a little bit on things that I've said. So watch that video and then go to the tasks link at the top of the page and take quiz 2. Thank you for listening.